Welcome back to the continuation of an Aurora C# role-playing campaign. We are following the exploits of the Union of Humanity's Navy. I know it's a bit unusual to start with no ships or troops, but I'm doing this for RP reasons. It's a great way to show the audience, potential new players, how to get started from scratch. The current plan is to use our super specialization in propulsion technology to quickly research down that tree until the fire hose becomes a drip. Then, we're going to spread out the labs for a more balanced approach. At that time, one would hope the academies will have produced proper scientists in multiple fields of study that we currently lack. We're also putting out 2 Asimov survey ships to begin the lengthy process of fully exploring the Sol system, a necessary first step in galactic colonization.
May 17th, 2026. We go to the moon not because it is hard, but because it is easy. Setting up early colonization, offloading specific industries like financial districts to allow specialization, kickstarting trade and civilian freight. But it is clear that Mercury is high, if not at the top, of a list of planets for secondary colonization, with abundant trans-Newtonian elements. That's right, folks. When you want to get the stuff, you go to Mercury. July 11th. Venus is a good supply of corundum, and a scattering of other offerings. Ground survey means doubling down on ground troop research, and so a rush order is being placed for the training and activation of the Geological Survey Corps. December 1st. The Heinlein-class colony station begins loading colonists, while an Abbott-class tug will deliver them to Luna.
January 4th, 2027. So let's explain a neat trick we can get the civilian economy to do for us. Maybe. It could take a while. Earth produces infrastructure outside of military control. The lunar colony technically has a demand for that infrastructure, albeit quite small. However, it is also the only place to offload infrastructure in the entire economy. As more infrastructure is added, more is needed to create an increasingly large demand and a positive feedback loop. This is part of the reason why we're rushing an early colony space station, despite there being little demand for workers on Luna. We're creating an economy for civilian corporate shipping services to move goods as soon as possible. Those infrastructures will, theoretically, be turned over to our control once sold.
April 7th. Our first malfunction on a military craft. We can see our commercial engine has suffered maintenance failures and must dig into its supply to be fixed. All military-flagged craft suffer these degradations, with weapons being especially egregious during extended firing. A craft that cannot cover its own maintaining budget goes without the part, whatever it may be, until the damage control or engineering section receives additional supplies, or the ship is laid up in a dry dock to repair. A larger, more technologically complex military with extended sensors, gadgets, and doodads becomes increasingly complicated to keep supplied over long distances and through battles. Logistics is centrally valuable to this game.
I see you, spreadsheet warriors. I know you love that word, logistics.
November 13th. The Abernathy-class jump stabilization ships hit the design board. Speed is not needed here, as they will hang at jump points and Lagrange points for half a year at a time. Tugs will be retasked with dragging them around the solar systems they visit. Overall, it's a barely functional brick meant to keep the crew alive. This is hardly the Union of Humanity Navy's most elegant idea. December 13th. An Abbott-class tug is tasked with moving the Weir-class terraforming station to Luna. This is the historic small step for man in securing a future among the cosmos of comfort. The UHN looks on with anticipation at the theorized addition of oxygen and gases to the lifeless lunar landscape.
A decision is made to let the last of the current propulsion tech cook off here while the scientist is still hot, and then make a new generation of ion ship engines, reactors, and jump drives to cover a variety of activities in second-wave ships, before swapping labs back to other broader topics.
October 29th, 2028. A new jump point is detected. Calzado's theories are correct, and the immediate call-up of an Abernathy class is being rushed to stabilize the connection. Earth is immediately thrown into a riot as faster-than-light or warp-equivalent travel has become a reality. And with Calzado's still theoretical stabilization technology, even a common spacecraft without a so-called jump drive would be able to make its way through both sides. Indeed, even Lagrange points around planets of sufficient mass appear to be mathematically stable enough based on experimental and cutting-edge work done by Dr. Sylvia Featherstone. February 23rd, 2029. A second jump point is detected. Both jump points are inside of Uranus's orbit. March 13th, Dr. Sylvia Featherstone has been killed in an accident. Her work on streamlining shipyard construction, labor negotiations, longshoreman training, and trans-Newtonian logistics as it pertains to ether-dimensional movement die with her. Some suspect foul play from the many governments of Earth who can only watch jealously as the Union of Humanity's Navy reaps the benefits of Calzado's dream. Despite rushing scientists from an increasingly large campus of Earth's Academy, now nicknamed the Swamp, there are no fitting production engineers to take her place. Those labs and their personnel will be retasked to supporting sensor and control system research, with a specific focus on expanding bridge officer departments for a full complement of traditional positions. May 28th. Luna now has a 100% oxygen environment, which is, of course, completely safe and logical. Now, the plan is to draw acetesium, a trans-Newtonian greenhouse gas meant to safely heat a world up. Enough will need to be brought in to raise the temperature sufficiently while also diluting the oxygen concentration below 30%. The final step will be adding enough water vapor into the mix to raise the hydrographic extent and to make surface humidity available for plant growth and the sustainment of human life. We are on the cusp of an incredible leap. January 6, 2030. Shortly after the 5-year anniversary of the commencement of space operations of the UHN, Governor Calzado receives news from Alfred Stork, Governor of Luna, that the ice sheet has begun melting. Local temperature averages have jumped from -29 to -22.9 Celsius. Another huge leap forward in raising human habitable temperatures.
September 17th. Let's take a look at engine creation for the current generation of technology to provide significant boost in both speed and savings to second-generation trans-Newtonian spacecraft. These jump drives will push a 20,000-ton military vessel through a jump point now. While we might be stabilizing the ones on our side, if there's a need to retreat back through the point, the jump drive's going to allow them to do this. The Stellarator fusion reactor will allow lasers and certain other weapons to run, draining from its capacity to recharge theirs. Ion drives with significant fuel savings and both consumption and size bonuses are being pushed out. In general, you want engines to make up about a third of a ship's mass. Since our jump drives are limited to about 20,000 tons, we want about 6,000 tons of engines. You can choose to make a single point of failure engine that is highly efficient, or plan several smaller engines on each vessel. Single engine designs here because I expect short lines of resupply and the ability to keep a close eye on maintenance. This may not be true in the future as we spread out more. Now that all the engine tech is prototyped, it needs to be researched again for mass production.
October 19th. 2 more Heinlein colony stations are completed, slated for Mars and Mercury. October 30th. Heinleins are underway. These colonists shall be strangers in a strange land. March 8th, 2031. A gravitational survey is complete in the Sol system. The 2 jump points we have are all we're gonna get. October 16th. With increased lab availability and a host of new scientists in a wide array of specialization, the time has come to spread science out to push forward all fields of study slowly, rather than just propulsion technology. While Dr. Withy continues on engine engineering and Dr. Coaster continues to make life on colonies more bearable, a new squad of scientists and engineers is entering the playing field after courses on trans-Newtonian physics at the DC campus. October 31st. Tugs tugging the Abernathy stabilization ships. A long-promised project has finally come due.
November 30th. The time has come to design and perhaps deploy second-generation trans-Newtonian ships. A board of military ship design specialists, led by Captain Sarah Fuoco, are drawing up plans for troop transports to deliver garrison forces and military police to future colonies. Powered by civilian ion drives, these slow-moving craft are not technically military-rated and don't suffer from breakdown and maintenance as a result. Their 25,000-ton bay is rated to carry 1 brigade worth of troops, or 5 battalions. These are designated the Rico class after the first Space Marine in human fiction, Johnny Rico. In a near copy of the Rico-class transports, a freighter for hauling installations and minerals could also be needed. The James S.A. Corey-class freighter would swap its troop transport bay for an equivalent-sized cargo hold. In addition, the Roddenberry-class tanker ship would have a dual purpose. Primarily, it can escort military fleets and refuel them in transit, allowing for much more purpose-built ships. Ones that would leave it behind to engage in full-speed combat without overly committing mass to fuel storage. In addition, Roddenberries would allow for the transport of fuel off of a Metzen-class fuel station to return to Earth or any supply base. Of course, there are no deployed and functional Metzens, but this ship design board is led by the far-seeing Captain Sarah Fuoco. All 3 classes would benefit from an auxiliary station, which allows the posting of an executive officer. This is a subordinate officer drawn from a pool who adds their crew training to the ships. While not as effective on non-combat vessels, it is important to allow as many of the burgeoning officer corps as possible to get actual experience on ships and give them a command, a purpose, and a shot at promotion. Too many were joining the UHN and simply leaving after a few years at an empty desk with nothing to do.
December 21st. Abernathy jump stabilization ships have arrived and begun their work. Abernathy 2 was ordered to do a full system stabilization. L5 Lagrange points are located 60 degrees behind the orbits of planets, and Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are all massive enough that their points could be stabilized. Once completed, the final point behind Earth orbit would be added. This would allow ships transiting to the jump points inside Uranus orbit to massively cut down on their transit time in real space. This comes followed by the news of the lunar changing climate. Luna's government is now subarctic, barely capable of supporting life in the most extreme circumstances, but a huge change from the atmosphereless, lifeless gray rock from but a few years ago. October 12th, 2032. With reports coming in of blueprints for a new bureaucratic superstructure having been drawn up from the DC campus, the plan for more Weir-class terraformers is cut short. 2 of them are removed from the production docket, and a new sector command is ordered to replace them. Many assume Lenny Calzado will become the sector's high leader, a super governor.
With the last Weir coming off the assembly line, the ship design board, now shortened to the board, swings into what should be its last meeting. Captain Sarah Fuoco meets with Commander Dion Dunphy, a mining specialist, and Commander Sarah Legee, a surveyor. These 3 represent functional ship commands of military and government-controlled civilian ships currently in service. while rear admirals sit commanding nothing, desperately hoping the Navy will expand to meet its industrial promise. These three on the board control the fate of the entire Navy. It is on their orders new ships are put into production, and they control the operational directives once functioning. Captain Fuoco quietly explains that she has put her superiors out of their jobs. Commanders Dunphy and Legge see the opportunity she's laid out. The UHN has had an extremely loose command structure based around devotion to the dream of Lenny Calzado. With the creation of Sector Command, a militant restructuring of the organization could take place. Governor Calzado, if dealt with and taken out of the picture, would leave to the board full control over 1 billion people and the future of humanity's trans-Newtonians' affairs. In short, Lenny Calzado's dream hung by a tenuous thread.